My research paper focuses on how faith in the Christian God carried the Continental Army through times of victory and times of defeat. One can easily argue that the American Revolution is the most important event in our nation's history. If one did a serious analysis of their chances of defeating England and actually gaining their independence, the findings would show the prospect of victory was very low to non-existent. England possessed a large professional army, one of the most powerful navies in the world, and immense financial resources. Conversely, the colonies had no army, no navy, no system to pay for them, and no united government to even build them. But in 1775, to war the colonies went. As we all know, Thomas Paine was a philosopher, political theorist, and political activist, and published a pamphlet called Common Sense, which was basically a sermon disguised as a pamphlet that preached the relationship with England as contrary to God's wishes. But there was nothing special or odd about Paine suggesting that God wanted the colonies to depart from England's protective but oppressive umbrella. It was not odd because faith, combined with a fervent belief that all events fell within God's design, was part of almost all Americans' daily life. In addition to faith, religion also shaped the colonists' way of life, with it being the deepest currency among individuals and between individuals and state. Faith in religion is what gave the Continental Army the belief they could defeat one of the most powerful, richest countries in the world. It was the bedrock foundation of why they continued the war through good times and bad. Now, it must be remembered that reliance on faith and religion did not start with the American Revolution. As far back as 1675, the words written in the Bible allowed the colonists to go to war and triumph over the heathen Pequot tribe. This history of espousing God's grace and His divine intervention to support the colonies continued for the next 100 years. This collective reliance on faith and religion naturally and easily transferred to the Continental Army. When it was formed in 1775, George Washington immediately saw that the spiritual welfare of the troops was being neglected, so a little over a month later, he authorized each regiment a chaplain. Throughout his command, George Washington continually asked for divine intervention and protection, and he thanked God for His continual blessings. The importance of faith and religion cannot be overemphasized in the American Revolution. It is what gave the Patriots justification to separate from Great Britain. It rationalized military victories and defeats, and was used by the majority of Americans to give solace that God had a plan for America. When the colonies declared their independence, they saw themselves as freemen and the favorites of heaven. As is found in our country's foundational documents and era pamphlets, newspapers, letters, diaries, and in official documents of the Continental Army, the colonists saw God everywhere and always with Him guiding the hand of the faithful. One example was published in the Pennsylvania Journal on June 21st, 1775, after the Battle of Noodles and Hogshead Island near Boston, which they claimed as a victory. The paper hoped that after the battle the English would leave us peacefully to enjoy those rights and liberties that God in our nature has given us as our inalienable right, and which they are most unjustly endeavoring to wrest from us by violence. Somehow, beyond all odds, the 13 colonies became the United States. But how did this happen if most battles ended defeat? What gave the leaders of the Continental Army the strength to carry on when most armies in history lost faith in their cause and became demoralized to the point of surrender? American independence was won due to the dedication and conviction of the soldiers and the leaders for liberty and freedom, because it was based on their belief that God was on the side of American freedoms and liberty. They never lost faith because they knew their cause was righteous and that they would be victorious. The men fighting for American independence truly believed that, as long as they stayed true to the word of the Lord and kept their faith in God, they would be victorious. Thank you, and have a nice evening.